Because it has been a very busy week as politicians in the UK return after the summer break. The Labour Party is still in the throes of a leadership election, and the British Cabinet met this week to consolidate thoughts on Brexit, again, with the Prime Minister Theresa May restating that Brexit means Brexit. But are we any clearer in any of this? Steve, what are your thoughts?
Well, that certainly doesn't clarify anything, that statement.
Really,
she keeps on using Brexit means Brexit, which means nothing at all. Yeah, we are, I think, and in the sense that it looks as if they're going to play, the British Cabinet are going to play pretty hardball in their negotiation. They're going to aim for the sort of utopia where they're going to say we must have constraints on freedom of movement. That is absolutely, I think it's been described as a red line. But we have the Chancellor of the Exchequer still making clear that the British economy wants access to the single market. Others are saying, well, that will happen anyway because, you know, trade is of mutual interest. But it won't, because the rest of the European Union will not allow a sort of free access to the single market. And suddenly say, oh, yeah, you can have a completely different arrangement when it comes to free movement of labour. So I think what we know is they're going to aim the British government high. What we don't know is how the rest of the European Union will respond. And when we do, I think the British government will be in for one of its many, many shocks to come.
I think, Annalisa, you're smiling and shaking your head there. So what are your thoughts?
Well, about the EU reaction.
Yeah, because, I mean, Britain needs to start understanding a little bit better the situation and have more realistic expectations. Without exaggerating, but at the moment what Britain seems to expect is the same thing that a husband would tell to his wife, look, I want to stay married, but I want to be single, right? Do we have a deal? No, actually, no, we don't have a deal. And that's what the European Union is saying. If you want to stay in the single market, you will have to have a freedom of movement. The two are not, you cannot separate them. So at the moment, what it seems is that the British voters who voted for Brexit were given a promise of something that is not on the table.
And that's not going to change, you think?
It's not going to change. There is not a chance that this is going to change. So someone will start explaining to people that that deal is not on the table. How long this lack of clarity and this kind of hypocrisy will go on, we don't know. I mean, it's an hypocrisy, it's a game that is not true, what is happening at the moment.
Greg, I just want to bring you in here. I mean, people outside of the UK looking at this, particularly Europeans, we want our cake and we want to eat it at the same time. How do you think it's viewed wider than that?
Well, every place I went, every person I interacted with in the US, I was just there for quite a while, when they asked me about Britain, the first thing on their mind was what in the world is going on there? And it's not just the Brexit vote which shocked them, it was the subsequent meltdown of the Cameron government and the Corbyn position and the Nigel Farage resignation. People are utterly baffled as to what the British could possibly want because they don't understand the economic argument behind it, and they're seeing economic as paramount. So there's a lot of confusion in the world as to what this means. People really don't get it, I think, and certainly, you know, we're 2 months into it now, and there seems to be no clarity. It's baffling to the world beyond.
It's damaging as well.
Oh, I don't think it's so damaging as much as people are curious. I think the damage was done in the first 24 hours, perhaps to the pound, and now we're seeing commercial real estate doing poorly and firms not hiring. There's a lot of damage being done, but Britain's position in the world, I think, people are just flat out confused, and they want to see some change, something positive come out of it.
Yeah, I think there's some confusion, but I think there's also not an insignificant amount of derision. I think people are slightly laughing at the UK as well, because the scale of the blunder is actually very clear to see. There hasn't been a sort of commanding, authoritative figure that has shepherded the whole Brexit campaign. And I think that even though internally we or the British might like to think that, you know, this has all been a wonderfully pristine exercise in democracy, but it kind of looks like a bit of a shambles on the outside. And it has not been helped by the fact that you now have these sort of war rooms, these war cabinets about what Brexit is, how we're going to do it, what's on the table, and then you have debates about whether we should have a second referendum, and then you have demonstrations planned to have a second referendum, and you think, really, it doesn't look like anybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, just final word, Steve. Do you think that it will happen?
I think
Theresa May's Brexit means Brexit?
I think I think someone used the phrase linear about somebody else. Was it about Hillary? I can't remember. But she's quite a linear politician. She's not devious. So she feels now it's her responsibility to deliver that referendum result, even though she was a subdued Remain supporter. So I think she will. I think she will trigger, and she will have to because of her party anyway. So she will trigger Article 50 and we'll be off. All I would say is that there are lots of other factors floating around, which means it's not impossible that in the end we stay in. The majority of the House of Commons is for Remain. The huge majority of the House of Lords. First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, is threatening to hold a second referendum because of Brexit. So there are kind of all other factors floating around. But I've got no doubt that Theresa May, regards it as her duty to deliver the outvote.